a lovely day!
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at another knife by Brian Tighe, a full custom integral that is just crazy cool. Those of you that have followed me for any length of time know that I've done several videos on Brian's knives. That's because I'm an enormous fan of his, and he was actually the guy that made my very first custom knife, my very first custom order. I placed with him back in 2009. And I've been collecting many of his knives ever since. Now, this particular knife is not mine. It's being sent in by a friend. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, let's talk about the packaging. He has simplified his packaging over the years. It's a standard custom pouch like we see most custom knives come in these days, but he's still got a nice leather patch sewn onto it, which adds just a little bit more class to it. We'll get this open and get it laid out. Now, the particular model that we're looking at here is the tie down. And what the tie down is a full integral knife. That means what you're seeing for the body or the frame of the knife is one piece. And this happens to be carbon fiber. He's done these in titanium. He's done them in Damasteel. He's done them in a lot of different materials. I do also believe Damascus and some other great materials. But this is all milled from one solid piece. It's not constructed like this, where you have titanium, then a titanium backspacer, and the blade, and then another piece of titanium on the other side. This is all one piece, and I don't know why my camera just refuses to focus these days. Come on, there you go. So that is all one piece, and it is beautifully machined. He has carved out such a wonderful topography in this carbon fiber, and it takes the right lighting to really show that to you. Let me see if I can back this light off a little bit here, and you can see the beautiful work that's been done in this. And it not only looks good to have it like that, but it actually feels really good in the hand as well. It is a button lock, which he has been doing for a very long time. As a matter of fact, the very first knife I got from him, my Tycoon Flipper, was a button lock. It was my first, I believe it was my first exposure to button locks, if I'm not mistaken. Notice even the pocket clip is sculpted to match the sculpted work in the carbon fiber. Really well done. I love this as well. It gives, his carving gives such an incredible degree of character and richness to his designs. Let's get this open and lay it out. Lay it down here on the table. Now, this is from my very good friend Chris over at Tighe Addiction. Please do go follow him on Instagram. He's not really doing too much these days on YouTube, but he does have a YouTube channel. But follow him on Instagram. He's a super phenomenal guy. I've had a chance to play with a few of his knives. He's also a great customer of mine as well. He owns a few of my customs that I've made for him, and he has a couple in the works right now as well. And we were talking one night, and he agreed to let me borrow this for a little bit of time, just to kind of play with and get a review done. And turns out he is actually going to be selling this knife. So if you watch this video and you go, hey, that's kind of neat, it's unique, I'd like to experience something like that in my own collection, here's the great thing. These are about $1,100 to $1,200 in this form. When you order from Brian, obviously you get into Damascus and Damasteel and things. The prices go up, over $2,000 and higher. But the great thing about Chris is he keeps all of his knives in amazing condition. He has his knives that he uses for users, but he is a collector, so he has many knives that really don't get any wear and tear at all on them. And this appears to be one of those knives as well. It's in extremely good condition. So the great thing about Chris is he's got a really interesting eye for collecting unique knives. And then when he does turn around to sell them, he always gives a great deal. As a matter of fact, more times than not, you're going to end up paying less than maker price, which I know he's doing on this one. So I don't know the exact price. We didn't really get too much into it because I didn't want to just simply sound like a sales ad for him. But I do know he's selling below maker's price. He's always very fair. He and I have done a lot of deals in the past, so I know you'll get a good deal if you choose to go that route. All right, so let's talk about the knife. Let's get the specs out of the way first. Let's get this off to the side. You are looking at 9.125 inches in overall length. She's a big girl. Yes, she is. But she's on a diet because she's all carbon fiber and very, very lightweight. We will talk about the weight here in a moment. Blade length, 4 full inches. Really, really good size for a larger size folder. Let's see. Blade thickness is 160 thousandths of an inch thick. So at 160 thou, you've got a pretty thin blade stock, which allows it to flip quickly. It allows it to carry as a lightweight knife for its size, but it's not diminutive in any way. It's still going to have a good feeling of boldness to the thickness of the blade. He typically uses RWL 34 on his knives. I do want to double check. I don't know if it's actually marked on the blade. Sometimes the blades are marked, sometimes they are not. And this one does not appear to be marked in anywhere that I can find it. So I'm going to go with that he did use RWL 34 on this knife. Brian used to be, he might still be, but he used to be a distributor for Damasteel. He really has a strong preference for their steels. They obviously do own RWL 34. So it's a good guess. Let's see. And the handle thickness is just over a half an inch thick. Your accessories, or I should say your hardware on this, all blackened titanium, as well as the pocket clip blackened titanium. And then your pivot collar being done there in copper. So you've got a little dash of color popping out of an otherwise all blacked out knife. So obviously carbon fiber is black. All of your titanium is blacked out. And then the blade steel has been done in a dark acid stonewash. And one of the things that I appreciate about this having a dark acid stonewash, even though it's not my preference in Brian's finishes, is the fact that you can use this knife pretty much guilt-free because it already has the stonewashing effect. You've already got the marks and scars all over the blade, so it's going to help to mask any use that you have on the blade. Blade profile on this is a Tanto style blade with a harpoon. So you've got all of the cool factor of having a Tanto. If you like Tantos, I do. And then you have this harpoon, which is a nice little thumb rest when you're choked up into the finger choil up front. Action is standard fare for Brian in these integral designs. It's obviously not a strong detent because it's a button lock. However, it is fast. You do have to put a conscious effort into the flipper tab, however, and that's why he angles them the way they do. This is not a push button style. This is a forcible light switch. So when you get the right amount of flicking on that flipper tab, it is going to rock out nicely. You're just not going to feel a strong detent, let's say, because I'm going to be using this for size comparison later, this one-off Alpha Smilodon that the prototype from PMP Knives, you can feel that detent, and you are consciously breaking that detent when you flip it out. This is going to be a lot more akin to the Eastwood Tighe that I've got right here, where it doesn't have a strong detent, but the way that it's built, it has a nice, smooth, and fast flipping action. You're just not going to have that very strong detent behind it. Now, why is it that you would want to have an integral frame made out of carbon fiber? Well, number one, for those of us that love the look of carbon fiber, you're going to get, obviously, that high-end look of carbon fiber. But you're reducing the weight tremendously over any other materials that he would typically use. A lot of the materials that he uses for his handles, really, it's going to be titanium or titanium derivatives like Timascus. And while those are lightweight, as you compare them to steel, they are very heavy when you compare them to carbon fiber. So what he's doing here is he is taking a massive block of carbon fiber. I'm going to assume that he starts, so if his final thickness here without the pocket clip is 53 thousandths, so he's a little over a half an inch, I'm going to say he's probably buying 3/4 inch carbon fiber blocks. And from that block, he is going to, let me get this open again. He's going to mill out everything that he needs inside of here to fit the blade and the pivot and the washers, the bearings and everything. And then he's got to have enough room to sculpt all of this. So that thickness is being brought down so that he can round this off, and then he's going to be carving in all of these incredible patterns. Narrowing this down here for a lanyard opening. If you choose to use a lanyard, it has that opening. Again, the way that he brings his artist's mindset into knife making is still what I find the most exciting about him as a maker. By the way, that D10 is actually better than I gave it credit for. Look how it just sucks that in. That is crazy. So it's got a good deal of tension on that blade. So Brian is an artist, and knives are not the only things that he makes. He's made these really wild, cool belt buckles and things. He's a machinist and he's an artist. And if you go back into his oldest work, the majority of his blades were going to be all 100% machined. They were all done, and you'll see, and he actually, I think, honestly, really made it more famous than anybody else with having the machine lines going all the way through the blade. He called it fluted. And, you know, we've seen companies like Grimsmo Knives and others that have continued on with that tradition, but it wasn't just the milled lines. He was literally going deep and sharp on each ledge. So you could run your finger down it and feel a pronounced step going downward to the final edge. They were very, very cool. Now, what he's doing these days is he still does that. He does offer that as an option on many of his knives, but he's also doing a lot of hand grinding as well. So this is ground. It may have been initially ground on the mill. I'm not entirely certain, but a lot of his blades now are finished ground on a grinder. And with this particular example, you do get one of his compound grinds. And it's what I like about this particular grind is it's not interruptive in the edge. So it's a little bit steeper and thicker here, and it gets narrower here. I've talked to you about this in the past with my Hellseeker model that I make. I prefer a reverse compound grind so that when you're cutting and you're slicing, you're not hitting a ledge right here where this bevel is going to be thicker than this one. So you're actually dropping down to a thinner bevel up here toward the front. And that really is the most practical and useful way if you're going to show off and do a compound grind, do it in the reverse, and then it drops off so that you're able to cut and slice more easily. Let's give you some close-ups here on the knife. There we go. Here is that finish. It's a finish I do often as well because it's a really, really great user finish. Now, these, while they can be used as thumb studs, they're actually not thumb studs. They are going to be your blade stops, and that's where it's going to stop the blade from overextending when it hits the frame. Your pivot there is the blackened titanium with the copper pivot collars, and then there's your blackened titanium plunge lock or button lock, however you'd like to call it. There again, you can see that beautiful sculpting. You can see the 2x2 twill weave of the carbon fiber. Really love how that's been done. Almost looks like a bird's head when you look at it from this angle, doesn't it? There's a good shot where you can see the lines that are sculpted in. You can see all along the interior that is all one solid piece of carbon fiber. Come around here to the pocket clip. Beautifully sculpted pocket clip, and it flows with the lines of the knife wonderfully. You could tell that his pocket clips are designed. They are not an afterthought. He's using the beg ball, ceramic ball in the pocket clip, which makes it easier to get in, especially over jeans pockets. Very thick pockets. It allows it to pop right on while having really good retention. It opens up back here as well so that it just drops right into the pocket perfectly. There's that pivot on the other side. Very aggressive harpoon as well. I like how he ground that. So overall, my thoughts on all Brian Tighe knives. I'm really going to be somewhat biased on them because I am such a huge fan of his. And I'm perfectly happy admitting that. We're going to get into the weight of this bad boy now, and then we'll do some size comparisons along with the weight comparisons. All said and done, that massive 9.125-inch knife is only 4 ounces. Let's get into some similar sizes here with titanium and carbon fiber. 7.7 ounces. This is significantly heavier. All titanium, 8.2 ounces, also significantly heavier. Another in all titanium, 6.8 ounces. Let's get into something that may be a little bit more familiar to many collectors. Here is an all carbon fiber knife with just some thin liners. Still 4.4 ounces. And a lot of you guys have a Chavez 229, so you might be familiar with how that carries. 6.6 ounces. So yeah, there is a significant weight difference. Let's take a look at these size-wise and give you an idea. Again, we'll start off with the Chavez 229. So you see it is a little bit bigger, about a half an inch bigger overall. And yes, this is still one of the most awesome knives there is. Put it up against my one-off custom Tim Gallion Junkyard Dog Eagle Edition. Boy, that's a mouthful. That is a really, really, really large knife. Significantly larger than the Tighe. Put it up against the Red Horse Knife Works Hellraiser. Very, very close in size. I'd say about a 1/4 inch longer on the Tighe. Another really great all carbon fiber knife. Put it against the Eastwood Tiger. Almost identical in size. So that really gives you a good idea when we weighed them side by side how much more lightweight that carbon fiber frame really is. And then the Alpha Smilodon with its glass breaker comes out to be just about 1/8 of an inch longer overall. And I think that was just about it for comparison. Oh, I did bring out one more carbon fiber knife. Again, it's just carbon fiber inlays set into a titanium frame. This is the Tasca 2 by R&H Knives, another beautiful custom. And there we see a significant size difference there as well. Now, can I suggest a Brian Tighe full custom knife to everybody out there? Pretty much, because he does cover a lot of different price points. And if a full custom is just going to be out of your reach financially, or you just can't justify it, there are plenty of people out there that can afford it. They just go, well, I don't know if that I want to spend, $1,100, $1,200 on a custom knife right now. I get that. He does offer great mid-tech knives under the label Brian Tighe and Friends. So those are authorized designs by him that he has manufactured. Obviously, it's not going to be this exotic. They're much more basic in the materials being chosen, but they're still very cool. And they represent the visual style and flair that Brian has. And then he does some production knives. It licenses his design to CRKT from time to time as well. Now, what I love about Brian is he is one of the absolute nicest, most genuine people and humble people you will ever meet in the knife industry. I highly suggest anytime you go to a big knife show, you go to Blade Show, you go to the USN show, New York Custom Knife Show, California Custom Knife Show, any show that he attends, make it a reality. Go up and meet him. Go up and talk to him. Make it a point to go by his table and just chat with him for a few minutes. And maybe it's just the fact that he's Canadian, because most Canadians are just overly, ridiculously nice. But he is just one of the nicest people in the world. He's an open book. He'll talk to you about knives and art all day long. And he's just one of those people that you feel blessed to know. And I've had a chance to have a really nice relationship with him over the past 13, 14 years. He has been just nothing but kind and wonderful. And even back long before I ever became a knife maker, I was very curious about why his Damasteel always etched so much nicer than everybody else's back at the time when I asked him. And he actually laid out his entire Damasteel etching process. He's like, I do this, 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 and this. And I was like, wow. I'm like, I'm not even a knife maker, so most of that stuff's over my head. But it was really cool that he shared that. And it's actually his formula, which is very, very, very similar to Todd Begg's formula that I actually use to etch Damasteel when I work with Damasteel. And it was seeing his and being so impressed by his where I went, wow, this is a guy that puts in so much extra effort to perfect everything that he touches. It's not just about his machining prowess, which obviously he has demonstrated for decades that he is extraordinarily talented with, but even in every other part of the knife making aspect. You look at the way that he blackens his titanium here. It looks like zirconium. I thought for a while that it was zirconium. It's that dark and black. And not a lot of guys know how to blacken titanium. It's a little bit more common nowadays. But you go back, it's 6-7 years, and it was like this closely guarded secret. And Brian's just not that kind of guy. If you were a knife maker and said, hey, man, I'd love to know how you get this finish on this particular material, he's the kind of guy to go, yeah, this is how I do it, boom, boom, boom. And he would sit down for a half hour and type it all out for you and tell you about it. And that's the kind of person that you really do enjoy supporting. So while buying this particular knife, if you were buying it from Chris, you're not supporting Brian directly, you're supporting Chris. But I think that somebody that gets into this knife maybe as their first experience with a Brian Tighe or as a first experience with a custom knife, you're going to be so impressed that you're going to end up buying more knives either made by him as a full custom or designed by him as a mid-tech in the Brian Tighe and Friends, or buying one of his designs licensed to a production company. I think that you're really going to appreciate the interesting look that he has going on. What's funny is his designs are usually very aggressive, but they still have this organic feel to them. And you'll meet him in person, and you're like, this is not an aggressive type of person at all. I don't know where these aggressive designs come from in his mind, but I really, really do dig him. I love his blade profiles, and I always love the sculpting that he does. So yes, I can't be completely unbiased when it comes to a Brian Tighe knife. I can't really think of one he's ever made that I personally disliked, but I also haven't handled everything that he's made either. He's designed a lot of knives, and I'm sure at some point I'll come across something and go, not quite for me. But so far, I haven't come across one of those yet. So again, if you're interested in buying this particular knife, depends on when you're watching this relative to when it was uploaded. You can message Chris directly. That's a deal between you and him. I have nothing to do with it. And for anybody else out there that looks at this and goes, wow, I need to have one of those, just do a Google search. You're going to find plenty of dealers that participate with Brian. Everybody loves the guy. Everybody enjoys his quality. I have never heard of a single quality control complaint ever about a Tighe knife. So maybe that's why so many dealers will stock his product. And if you're looking for titanium or Damascus or Damasteel or full Damasteel, if it's not available somewhere, you can always contact him directly through his website or through any social media. And See if you can get a custom order going. I'm sure his books are quite a bit a ways out. I mean, I would expect to wait probably a year, but it's always worth it to get exactly what you wanted. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. I'm out of here. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you on the next video.